Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So then there's Sri Giri Govardhan, who is so mystical because he's both Krishna himself and he's the greatest devotee of Krishna. And Sri Radha herself, who is Krishna's dearmost devotee, calls Giriraj Krishna's dearmost devotee. And he has another subtitle, which is the hill who fulfills all desires. So this is way beyond the conscious, logical, linear brain, right? So he's both Krishna and he's a devotee of Krishna, and Radharani is Krishna's dearmost, and yet she says he's his dearmost. So yeah, very beautiful, very mystical. And you know, we can enter Vrindavan on many levels, just like there are many levels of our own consciousness, right? We have the physical, the mental, the emotional, the deeply spiritual essence. So we pray to enter Vrindavan in the immersion of an opened heart. Yeah, we're praying to enter Vrindavan with the immersion of an opened heart. Yeah, please come closer if you can. I don't know if it's hard to hear, but please come closer. So just as there are many layers of coverings on our own consciousness, there are many layers of coverings on the Holy Dham as well. And why is that? In order to test us and to test our determination and to really kind of accost our senses as we try to enter Vrindavan. So I don't know how many of you have been to Vrindavan before, but it's important to be aware of this, that these many layers of our consciousness, yeah, you know, many layers of a spiritual reality that I may not have access to that reality. When we go to Vrindavan, our senses get just really totally accosted by sights and smells and sounds that we're not familiar with. And, you know, we wonder, is this just some kind of a poor, dusty, overcrowded village that's barren of most trees and quickly becoming just a desert? And, you know, back home in London, there are so many beautiful trees, and this is supposed to be a holy place, but there are hardly any trees, and there's all these wild animals everywhere. So, you know, we need to seek permission to be able to enter the mysteries of this sacred place. And if I try to enter in a mood of pride, in a mood of judgmentalism, then we just don't get access. We just don't get the privilege of access to this holy place. So some great teachers, great gurus say that step one is to pray to give up pride, to seek to be given the privilege that this curtain of illusion may part. And just even for a few tiny moments, if we can just begin to appreciate what's invisible to our material eyes and beyond our external perception. So I want to share a story with you about Maharaj Man Singh. He was a king of Jaipur. He was a great promoter of Vrindavan culture. He was a great devotee of Krishna and a great devotee of Sri Vrndavan Dham. So once he came to Vrindavan, to a palace where he was staying there with his retinue of servants. You know, kings never travel alone, right? So his servants settled in on the ground floor, and he was up on the first floor, Indian first floor. I don't know, in London they say first floor, but he was up above, and they unpacked everything, and he was sitting on that veranda looking out at Vrindavan, and he had a very, very beautiful shawl that was, of course, only fit for a king, only meant for a king to wear. And it had woven gold threads, and it was made of the finest pashmina wool. And yeah, so that shawl was there. And all of a sudden, this monkey just came up on that veranda and grabbed that shawl and just ran off and was had that shawl up in a tree for everyone to see. And this is what monkeys do. And he was just ripping that shawl to shreds and just biting it and ripping it and just ripping it into just useless rags. And the servants, of course, were appalled. Oh no, this is the king's precious shawl, and what are we going to do? But then they noticed that the king was just saying, Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna. He's just, saying Krishna and Radha's name, Radha Krishna, Radhe Krishna. And he was weeping, And so then the servants were really beside themselves. And then the next day, one of the dear servants asked him, Maharaj, we're all so sorry that your beautiful shawl was destroyed by that monkey. And what should we have done? What could we have done? And the king said something very, very profound. He said, this was Krishna's great mercy on me, because I needed to understand that I have to enter Vrindavan not as a monarch, but that Krishna is the only monarch in Vrindavan, and we are all just his servants. So I think that's a very beautiful and instructive story for all of us, even if, we have a very, very tiny kingdom of maybe our own little flat in London or whatever. But here's a big, big king. And this was his mood. Yes, Krishna is the only monarch in Vrindavan. So here's a beautiful prayer by Srila Rupa Goswami. And he's praying to Sri Radha. And in a way that I think exemplifies this mood of humble longing and eagerness. That has to be our mood when we attempt to enter Vrindavan, a mood of longing and a mood of eagerness for that grace, So he's instructing us how to enter the mysteries of her grace, the mysteries of Sri Vrndavan Dham. And here's what he says. He says, I, a distressed soul belonging to you, beg you with sweet words while rolling on the banks of the Yamuna, which is the river there in Vrindavan. He says, although I am unfit, an offender with a crooked mind, please bestow upon me a fragment of the gift of service to you. This unhappy soul is not fit to be neglected by you. For you have a butter-soft heart that melts constantly by the warmth of your compassion. So we try to enter Vrindavan with this receiver's mind, not an achiever's mind. The Western mentality, we're like, want to be high achievers, right? But the Vrindavan mood is very opposite of that. I was remembering, so here's a nice quote from one of your Brits, Shakespeare. He says, the quality of mercy is not strained. It falleth as the gentle rain from heaven. So yeah, Shakespeare spoke so beautifully about this kind of grace. So grace falls down to us from above. And that's what we're seeking when we try to enter Sri Vrndavan Dham. And the realizations of this sacred place come as a gift, by grace, by invitation, not by trying to storm the gates of heaven. And it's such an amazing mystical place, because every creature there in Vrindavan, even the mischievous monkeys, the pigs that are all crawling and putting their snouts all through the gutters, and these ubiquitous dogs, every tree, every speck of dust is sacred there. And every one of them is there to teach us, if we can just open our hearts to receive what they have to teach us. So when we come to Vrindavan, we seek to go deep, to become immersed in the Vrindavan experience, or what's called the Brajvasi spirit. The spirit of, what is that? That's the spirit of the residents of Vrindavan. Maybe some of you, or maybe all of you, have read Krishna book, and you can see the simplicity, the sweetness of the residents of Vrindavan. They just love Krishna. They don't care that he's God. They don't even want to know if he's God. They just love him. So that's the simplicity of Vrindavan. He takes off his God crown and his whole God persona and hangs that up outside of Vrindavan. And so he's kind of inviting us to also take off our big persona egos and hang them up. Maybe never to go back and pick them up again, but outside of Vrindavan, right? So yeah, so that kind of mood, as opposed to what if we just stay on the surface? What if we go there and we stay on the surface? We have a superficial experience of what's wrong here. It's so different from my experience at home. Why this? Why that? It's too crowded. There's too much loud singing and too much of this and too much of that. So you know what? You know, when you look at a pond and you see the little small fish that are swimming near the surface of the water, those are the ones that are in danger of getting caught by the hawk flying over, right? That hawk of illusion, or that hawk of, time, illusion, death. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, right at the end of the 11th chapter, that only by having a mood of bhakti, loving devotion, can we even begin to enter within the mysteries of his understanding. And I just love that phrase, enter within the mysteries of his understanding. Doesn't that sound just so enticing? I mean, I just entered Delhi from the US. I had to get a passport from my own government. I had to get a visa from the Indian government. So you have to go through so much legalities and rigmaroles to enter another country. What to speak of entering the Holy Dham, you know? We have to get permission from the authorities there, from Radha Rani, from Giri Govardhan. You know? And, you know, I think of it like we have to try to become immersed like a deep sea aquatic. Try to enter into the depths like a beautiful, I think of it like a dolphin. Yeah, you know, our Vaishnava, our bhakti authorities, gurus, they say, because some people say we should try to enter into the ocean and merge like a drop of ocean merges with the totality of the ocean. But the bhakti, great bhakti teachers, they say, no, we should become deep sea aquatics in that ocean of devotion, really. So yeah, so I think of it like a beautiful dolphin that only comes up to the surface to jump and to share, really, but then lives down in the depths of the ocean. So another way of thinking of immersion is like say you're trying to dye a cloth red. Say you have a white cloth and you're trying to dye it red. So what if you just put a little tiny color corner of the cloth in the dye and then pull it out? And then put a little corner in, and then pull it up. It's going to take so much time for that cloth to become fully red, right? But if we just immerse that cloth, push it down deep into the red dye, then the dye is going to act much more quickly and effectively. Yeah. So yeah, in Vrindavan, I feel like we're being taken by the hand, by the compassion of these holy sadhus and saintly people, and being lovingly shown how to receive their grace, which is really the path for receiving the grace of Krishna. Radha shows us the grace of Krishna. All the sadhus lead us to the grace of Sri Radha. So yeah, Krishna's grace follows the grace of his beloved devotees. And if we want to enter Vrindavan, we have to become immersed in this Vrindavan mood, following the mood of his dear devotees. So this humility of the Vrindavan devotees, this mood of searching for Krishna, longing for Krishna. Where is Krishna? Where is Radha? This longing for Vrindavan. It's really so opposite of what we kind of take for granted in the West, isn't it? Like, it's not a complacent or entitled mood. Like sometimes you hear people say, I've seen Krishna, I know everything about Krishna. I've been reading Bhagavad Gita since I was a child, right? I've realized Krishna. So that mood is really kind of the antithesis of the mood, this mood of Vrindavan. So the mood of Vrindavan is, how can I learn to love? How can I learn to lovingly serve Krishna? So on another point, you know, I heard that one scholar said, I thought this was interesting to share. One scholar said that the real question is not does God exist? But the real question is God accessible? So, yeah, in Vrindavan, he just becomes so accessible, right? In his name, his beautiful form, the deities in so many temples, all his beautiful pastimes. And it seems like in Vrindavan that line between the material and the spiritual seems to be more blurred in Vrindavan, or kind of becomes more transparent in Vrindavan. And Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada likes to explain that Vrindavan is a place where everyone is naturally inclined to love Krishna, and Krishna is naturally inclined to love them. In Vrindavan, there's more access to just the simplicity, right? The simple joy of loving Krishna, and Krishna loving everyone, the cows, the trees, the birds, all the animals, and all the simple people who extend their love to him. So this is actually the reality. We think, sometimes we think, well, maybe this is all just made up, maybe it's all mythology, but this is actually the reality. And the egoistic world that we live in is really more mythology, if we can kind of flip our brains around that. Yeah, so, and you know what? I think that in this material world, the world has just become so disenchanted. And in Vrindavan, we have the opportunity to become re-enchanted by this beautiful, playful, delightful, supreme person who is Krishna, right? So I want to conclude here, but I want to end with a poem about that merciful Krishna. This is from Rupa Goswami's Padyavali. So Padyavali is kind of like Rupa Goswami's verse book. It's kind of his journal of his favorite verses. Some of them he wrote, some of them others wrote, some of them are unknown by unknown authors, which is really interesting too. So here's one of the Padyavali prayers about Krishna. It says, or the poet says, because he is tender with affection, because he promises to make you fearless, because he quenches the anguish of the anguished, because he is munificent, because he withers sin, because he offers a home of infinite fortune. His mere desire turns an ocean into dry land into an ocean, a speck of dust into a mountain into a clod of clay, straw into a diamond-hard bolt of thunder, a thunderbolt into simple straw, fire as cold as ice, and ice he turns into flame. Obeisance to Krishna, who loves to play in wondrous and mischievous ways. So thank you all so much, and I really look forward to meeting up with all of you at Govardhan very soon. And maybe you have some questions or some reflections on these thoughts. What did this bring up for you? Anything?
Hare Krishna, Mother Rukmini, thank you so much. So we just, anybody have any questions? We can turn the camera to you. Anybody want to ask? Yes, there's a question.
So when you were saying about the receiver mindset, I think I often get confused. How can we balance trying to achieve in our service and trying to give back to Krishna and not rely on him to reciprocate so much versus being in the receiver mindset and knowing that we're dependent on the mercy? How can we balance those two things?
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada would also make great plans. He had so many plans up his sleeve. He had so many irons in the fire for so many projects, right? But he would, he would make those plans and describe the plans. And then he would sit back and say, now let us see what Krishna desires. So, we work hard in different ways in our occupations, in our education, in our, whatever we're doing at the temple or everywhere. But then we have to always know that, I can only achieve by your grace. So this is done in partnership. I'm your servant, and only by your grace can any of my plans come to fruition. And I really like the prayer. I always like to share this prayer with friends, that my husband and I had a business for 25 years. We had 3 kind of upmarket galleries in Washington, D.C., selling jewelry and clothes and home furnishings. And we always used to have this prayer, and which I still do, but may the right doors open and the wrong doors close. Because let's face it, I may have my big desires and my big plans, but we're just the kids, right? I don't actually know what's best for me. You ever feel like that? Like Krishna actually knows what's best for me. So I think it's good to try your best, and then just put it, this term Anjali, put it in your Anjali, and just put it at Krishna's feet. Like, I'm trying my best, but Krishna, what's best for me. So please let the right doors open and the wrong doors close. And if this very strong desire of mine is going to be the worst thing that could ever happen to me, then let that not happen. Because it's interesting, when you have a prayer like that, sometimes you feel like a little rat in a maze. You see these doors slamming in your face, and you had no other plan or intention of any other way to go, but some door slams in your face, and then you're forced to go in some other direction that you didn't even plan. Or say you miss a flight, and you can get all bent out of shape, right? But then when you have that kind of prayer in your heart, then you think, wow, maybe I wasn't supposed to get on that plane, or whatever it is, like maybe I have such a strong desire, but then that's just not coming, and it's like hitting my head against stone all the time. But then to sit back and think, wow, maybe Krishna has a better plan for me. So I think it's not a matter of not trying our best, but just thinking that I'm trying in partnership with the one who really has my best interest at heart. And to me, that makes the devotee acting in the world the best employee, the best scholar, the best parent, the best student, the best child, because we're always trying to be in partnership. Well, how can I do this for the pleasure of Krishna, not just for my own ego or aggrandizement or whatever? Is that helpful? Is that a little bit helpful?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ramji.
This kind of one way is doing it as like on our own separate account, and the other way is doing it kind of on Krishna's account, and I'm just helping. What else? Any other reflections or questions or anything that was weird or?
One here.
Hare Krishna Bhakti. Just just a quick question. How does one? You said like Krishna leaves his crown outside of Vrindavan, and you said that we have to try and leave our own crown and our own personas or egos or who we think we are outside of Vrindavan too. But how does one go about that? Because we're so wrapped up in on who we think we are, and sometimes fear can kick in of, well, am I going to lose what I think is who I am, or something like that? How does one kind of overcome that?
I think that's a really, really beautiful question, because I would put that question into a prayer. I would turn that question into a prayer that, my dear Lord Krishna, I'm hearing that you hang up your godhood outside of Vrindavan, and you come to Vrindavan as a simple cowherd boy, with dust in your hair and all of that, and peacock feather and forest flower garlands. So I don't know how to do that, Krishna. How can I follow in the wake of your mood and leave my own egoistic persona outside? And with the fear, will I lose myself? Will I want to go back to who I was before I came to Vrindavan? Or will I maybe go back to London as a changed person? Maybe my ego and my persona will be transformed by this experience in Vrindavan. Maybe I won't go back to being that same person that I was. I think that's a beautiful prayer to put at Krishna's feet, like before entering Vrindavan and as you're entering Vrindavan. And yeah, and put it in Krishna's hands. You know, who do you want me to be in this transformation of the heart? Yeah, that's very profound. You know, will I have a fear of losing myself? Sometimes you see kids wearing these T-shirts that say, "I left my heart in Vrindavan." Do you see those in London? Yeah. So, you know, maybe that's a prayer to leave our hearts there and then to retrieve, rebuild it, reconstruct it in a different way when we go back, if that's possible. Is that helpful?
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Oh, there's a question.
Very well, Mataji. Thank you so much. Just a quick one. Should we go into Vrindavan with a goal in mind or something that we seek to achieve coming out? So just to follow up on an extension of the previous question, should we go
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Do we go with a what mind?
a goal or an aim or an
A goal.
ambition? And if so, what should that be?
That's a really personal question, and I think that's a question to go into your own heart and pray about that. You know, to have some inner goal. You know, and that may be different for each and every one of us. You know, I know when I came into Delhi, I was thinking maybe I can pull this up. I wrote a prayer. I wonder if I could find it. Anyway, I came to Delhi with this thought: how long am I going to be an outsider looking in? You know, how long? You know, when will I be able to really enter into this phrase, the mysteries of his understanding? So, you know, for me, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of been my prayer to, you know, to really try to enter into the mysteries of Vrindavan and to no longer in my chanting and my service and my association with devotees to no longer just be an outsider looking in. I was remembering when I was a little girl visiting New York City in the cold winter at holiday time, and maybe you have this in London too. The store windows are all decorated with all these enchanted, you know, moving figures, and it's all very magical. And you know, being outside, like with my cold nose pressed to the glass, looking at this enchanted scene. So, you know, thinking of this enchantment of the real Vrindavan and being an outsider, but to be able to really enter in. And we only do that by grace, by invitation. So it's like, you know, it's like the door to Vrindavan only opens from within. You can't open it from outside. It's completely locked to us. So it has to be opened by those who are within that place. So these are beautiful questions, I think, but I think that's something very, very personal. Pray about that. You know, what should be my mood? What should be my goal in entering Vrindavan? And I think Krishna will respond in beautiful ways to each one of you, in different ways. And no, but it's something very internal, and it's not about you know. We really get tested when we enter Vrindavan. Everything's different, you know, the smells and the sounds and this and that and the other thing. But to try to go beyond the surface and have that deep meditation. What is the goal of my limited time here? How can I take some baby steps in the direction of loving Krishna while I'm here? But yeah, that's a very personal question, and I would say everyone, we should each pray about that. I can tell this is going to be a very introspective group. How many will be coming?
I think about 40.
Wow, that's big. So I look forward to spending individual time with each one of you. And if I can serve in any way, this is the mood of the Goswamis, you know, to search for Krishna. Where is Krishna? Where is Radha? Where is Vrndavan? Not that, you know, I got this, like we're so accustomed to doing in our Western way of thinking. So thank you all so much. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. And if I can do anything for any of you in the meantime, if you have questions or want to reach out to me for anything, I'm coming in the mood of your servant. So thank you for this invitation. I'm invited by all of you, and pray we can all be invited into that door that only opens from the inside. So thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
A great Rukmini Devi ki
Jai.
jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Viva. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.